Hey, Doug Greathouse here, host of the Entrepreneur Journey podcast. And before we get into another amazing interview with an incredible entrepreneur, I wanted to invite you to the Trailblazer Mastermind community. What that community is a community of amazing entrepreneurs, just like the ones that you've seen me interview on the podcast, the 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. You'll get to learn from and engage with those entrepreneurs, and as well as many other entrepreneurs. We have a weekly networking event in there where you will meet the people that are seeking you and that you are seeking, meaning your next podcast guest, or if you want to be on a podcast, your clients, joint ventures, affiliates. We make those connections happen inside the Trailblazer Mastermind at the Entrepreneur Connect. We also have a monthly mastermind called the Trailblazer Mastermind. It's a feet to the fire style mastermind, meaning the goals that you have set for yourself and your business, you have a mastermind that is going to hold you accountable and help you hit those goals. You also learn what is working inside of other coaching businesses to help them grow. So that's not all. We also have the Sales Site All-in-One marketing platform, which you will get access to as a member of the Trailblazer Mastermind. It has everything that you need to grow your coaching business, from funnels, you can host your website there, social planner, email automation, SMS automation, sales pipeline, everything, literally everything you could possibly need to market and grow your coaching business is inside that platform. So you'll get access to that. There's also contests and giveaways. There's the expert training library, where we have experts. If you want to launch and grow your podcast, if you want to write a bestseller, those experts are going to be inside of the mastermind, and you can learn from them and grow. And in addition, last but certainly not least, there's the Raise Your Revenue course, the course by me and my team that we put together to help you hit your 5-figure consistent months in your business and then grow from there. So this is a roadmap to get you to that first 5-figure month, lay the proper foundation, and you can grow from there. So there's so much more. Go check it out. It's at mastermind.salesite.com, and I hope to see you on the other side. Ben, I want you to go ahead and kind of introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, man. So my name is Ben Lovro, stationed here in Columbia, South Carolina. My entrepreneur journey has been long. It's been a stream of ups and downs. It's like the entrepreneur roller coaster that I feel like we most of us go through in this space. But I'm an active real estate investor. We've traded tons of houses to some of the biggest institutional investors and hedge funds across the country. And over the past 3 years have started to develop a training community for real estate investors who are looking to scale their business. So inside of that system, our sole focus is to empower real estate investors with the tools that they need to grow their business to the next level. Married with a wife, we got 5 kids at home, so we got a full house. And at the end of the day, family is the most important piece of my life, right? The reason that we do this is so that we can buy our time back, so we can spend time with those that we love most.
Nice. So your business name, I think it's right behind you, right? Investor Syndicate, is that right?
It is. Yeah, Investor Syndicate is our community. That's
nice.
That's the educational wing. We have Cash Property Offers is our active real estate investing business, but Investor Syndicate has been the heavy push that we've moved towards the past 3 years in the coaching space.
Nice. So what I like to do with all my guests, me and Ben actually just met recently, just a few weeks ago at our friend Patrick Riddle's mastermind event. And it was just awesome getting to know him. And I said, dude, you got to come on my podcast. Right.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is start with some getting to know you questions. Just not really business or your story, just kind of getting to know you a little bit. So I know you are a dad of girls. So what is the best thing about being a girl dad?
Man, with the young ones, it's the best thing is when you get home first thing and their eyes light up and they just run up to you and hug you, right? Like there's no other feeling in the world that can really top that, to be honest, right? Just that completely innocent, unconditional love that, you know, your kid just, yeah. I love watching, we got a couple young ones, right? So the older kids are my stepchildren from my wife's first marriage. The 2 younger ones, Emerson is 2.5, and we have a 3-month-old, Adelie Grace. So yeah, we got some young ones in the mix. Emerson, I love watching her personality develop, seeing like the intricacies of how she's a lot a lot like dad, right? Like she's my lookalike. She's got a lot of very similar characteristics. She's a bossy little girl, right? She like the firstborn traits, right? Because there's such a large gap in age. But I love just watching her find herself, right? Find herself and discover life. It kind of just makes me reflect on my own personal journey, right? Mistakes, victories, shortcomings, everything in between. But seeing your child go through some of the development stages is it's special.
Nice. So here's kind of to segue into this. As entrepreneurs, we usually love what we do a lot, right? To where the point where it can encompass who we are and take control of all parts of our life, right? So sometimes the blend gets a little blurred, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you work with that? How do you turn the switch off when you need to? And just talk on that.
That's a tough one, man. Honestly, the answer comes down to my wife, right? My wife was the one that's like, hey, you got a family now. I understand that you want to do great things. I understand you're ambitious. But after 5 o'clock, when you're home, we need you home. And not just being home, but we need you present. So her being a guiding post on that front has really kind of helped me put things in perspective and prioritize first things first. That's where it started, right? But it's developed into a habit, and just it's a part of my being now that I understand. Of course, if a work call comes up in the evening, it's important. I can step aside and make the call, but it's more important that I'm there and that I'm present, especially in these younger years when my kids are growing up, because you can't get those back. You can always make more money, can't buy more time, right? And if we don't make those memories at a young age, time will just fly by, and before you know it, you're a bitter old man, right?
Yeah.
So to really kind of nail it down, man, it's an art. It's an art and a science, but my wife has kind of helped to set that standard of, hey, family time, work time. We need you here, so unplug, right? Let's do this.
Yeah, you and I are very similar in that. My wife helps steer the ship in that because just like you, I'm very passionate about what I do. So it can be at 5 o'clock can happen, and I'm still working, right? It's not until dinner's on the table that I'm coming to dinner because I'm just so entrenched in what I'm doing. So my wife guides that ship, and I thank her for that because she knows I can get carried away. So yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right.
There's seasons. Like I feel like there's a season for everything, right? But especially in like the building phases for any business, there's a season where you got to put your head down and you got to put in relentless hours. Like you hear all the entrepreneurs talk about, the time and the freedom that you get when you can, get your time back, make money while you sleep. Well, it's great, but in order to get there, you got to put in the work, right? You got to commit to long hours, discipline, and there is times where you might have to work a little bit later, right? Like those times happen. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's a season, right? You just can't let that season last too long.
Yeah, and it's a partnership with your wife, right? That she understands, like you're communicating all the time, like, babe, I got to put my head down for the next few days, so I'm gonna be working a little longer. But once I get that knocked out, I'm yours. It's just working those things out. Like I think Alex Ramosi had a very good video that I watched that a while back where he talks about there's no such thing as really a work-life balance. Like the way that most people want it, because it's just entwined, especially with entrepreneurs, it's entwined with us. So it becomes part of our life and our family. It's part of our family life. It's not separate, it's part of it, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah. But you can't overwork, right? And you can neglect your family if you're not careful. So there is a balance in that aspect, is to not neglect. But as far as hours, like set hours and that sort of things, I'm not sure it's all about that,
Agreed.
So, all right, finish this sentence. The one thing that many entrepreneurs don't put enough stock into is
Personal development.
ooh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts in here. The greatest ideas start in your mind, right? And then after it's fully manifested, you've put in the time, you've created organized plans inside of your mind. At that point, you can go out there and go build it, right? But another piece of that is having the space to think, right? Like personal development is this could go a lot of different directions. Personal development. Starting my morning, if I don't get in my meditation, my prayer, my reading, and my journaling, then my whole day is trashed, right? I'm not going to show up. I'm going to be, 11 a.m., almost lunchtime, and I'll feel it in my bones, right? Like if today is a perfect example, both kids are sick, right? And so we had to take them to the doctor this morning. I didn't get my quiet time. I didn't have the quality time to really like decompress and get my mind straight. So I knew by 11 o'clock that my day I can write it off, right? But that's a start, right? And then taking that a layer deeper is giving yourself the time to think, right? To decompress. I think many of us as entrepreneurs, we're just like work, grind, work, grind on this constant hamster wheel, but we don't take time to disengage and actually think, right? Think about higher level stuff. Think about the big picture without trying to force the process, right? Because believe me, I've been in that seat where I try to just like make things happen and get shit done and force the process. But I'm convinced, man, that's not how winning is done. I don't think that's the way it was designed. And I also think it's a spiritual journey as well, right? So it's getting in alignment with God, with your higher power, right? And part of that alignment is making sure that you're quiet enough to listen and humble enough to actually receive what you're hearing, right? What you're being told. And when you're in a position to do that, which I believe only happens in like the quiet, still hours of the morning, or just your quiet meditation time, that you have, what I call seeds, right? You have seeds of purpose that you can start to plant and scatter. And eventually, once you start chipping away and watering and nourishing those seeds, then eventually the harvest will come, right? But you got to be quiet enough to listen. You got to receive the ideas, which you can view the ideas as seeds. And then once the ideas are fully manifested, planting and scattering them around and seeing which ones grow.
That's so powerful, because I'm just thinking about my day, right? When I don't take the quality time in the morning, right, and do like my devotion and read scripture and Bible and study the Bible, how my day goes if I don't do that, right? And versus how it goes if it does. It's almost like it's kind of weird. God's in step with me, right, throughout the day when I do it, where I'm kind of out of step when he's not. It's just such a weird feeling. I can tell when I'm out of alignment.
Yeah. And it's in those times, it's almost like, again, you can try to force the process. It's only going to come in the right time, right? And if I'm not in alignment mentally, then I might as well just step back, take the time to think, right, and give it another shot when I have a clear mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the pieces of wisdom I guess I've picked up along the way, right? Just if it ain't flowing, don't force it.
Yeah. Wow. Nice. All right, man. Those are just getting to know you questions, but so much value dropped. I love it when I come with the getting to know you questions and then the guest just drops some value in the getting to know you questions. So let's dive into your story, because you have a very interesting and unique story, a inspiring story. And I would love for you to share that with our audience.
Yeah, man. So growing up, man, I was a knucklehead kid. I made some poor decisions. It wasn't all knucklehead moments, right? Like I was an avid athlete and in sports and had a good upbringing. I just got into high school and decided to make bad decisions, right? Started to run around with the wrong crowd. And that took me down some real long, lonely, broken paths. At the age of 21, I picked up a serious case. It wasn't my first time getting arrested, but it was the first like serious encounter with the law. At which point I had to answer to. I ended up spending 5.5 years in prison. So that time in the state penitentiary was just a deep time for reflection, right? What does penitentiary mean? It's to pent, right? To turn around from your old ways or old way of understanding and turn towards something new, right? So I had to strip away the old man. I had to learn about all the impurities and the weaknesses and everything that we have in our human nature, and just let God move. I can't say it was just like an overnight transformation process. It was a season, right? Like he had me in that solitude to have no place to look but up, right? Like in those quiet, lonely moments where I had nowhere else to go, no one to turn to, that you just have nothing but your silent and your anxious thoughts, right? Luckily inside of there, I quickly realized the person I didn't want to be, right? Where you got a bunch of the homies that are downstairs passing around, the same needle amongst like a big group of people tatted from head to toes, right? I'm like, whoa, like, did I take a wrong turn or something? But yeah, that's kind of the turning point in my journey. So fast forward the tape, 2009 is when I picked up the case. 5.5 years later, 2014, I got released, October 6th, 2014, at which point my auntie and uncle offered to help me reestablish. So my dad drove me across the country out here to South Carolina, where I moved in their basement, and I lived there for about 3 months, right? Got a job at a small restaurant downtown Columbia, started working my tail off, man, like every single day. If I wasn't scheduled for a shift that evening, because I knew I'd made good money in the evenings, I'd wait on my phone and guaranteed one of the college kids was going to give up a shift, right? So like in those early seasons, I was working every single day, man, because in my mind at that point, I thought that I had to work twice as hard as the person next to me, right? Now I realize that I had to like retrain my mind to work smarter and not harder, which that's a story for another day. But that was the broken point. That was the point where God found me. I found myself. I got released, worked my tail off, and I wasn't really looking for entrepreneurship, but it kind of it found me, right? Like whether it was reading books or just working my tail off, looking for a better way. It started to really just churn in my spirit and make me realize that I had the power inside of myself to create whatever lifestyle I wanted, if I'm only willing to put in the work, lean into the right people, right? So find the right network. And I mean, you don't have to create the system. There's already proven models across the board. You just have to learn and pick up all the little pieces along the way and develop your own story. So that's like the big kind of long drawn out picture of what brought me here. And over the past 6-7 years since I've been out here in South Carolina, I've been way more blessed than I deserve. Have incredible opportunities, got an amazing family, amazing wife, and pretty awesome businesses.
Nice. So inspiring. So part of that journey, you started getting into real estate and started investing in real estate and learning all the ins and outs of that. And that's what you teach people now, right? Is how to invest in real estate.
Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely. Yeah, so literally the first house I bought, money that I worked my tail off at the restaurant, and I bought my first house cash, right? It was a little auction property. It was out of state, so like a lot of risk buying a house out of state. My first mentor at that point, looking back with what I know now, probably wasn't the wisest decision to encourage this newbie to go buy this house out of state for cash, right? But that's the lessons I learned in that season were second to none. But after that experience, I held the property for about 8 months. I think at the end of the day, I made like $5,000, which is great. But I learned that I don't have to just have like a ton of cash sitting around to like physically buy these houses. I learned if I can find the true deal and secure that thing under a purchase agreement, that just having that contract, I can literally sell my position in that contract for a fee, right? Or I could sell it to a cash buyer. And then if you learn how to do that over and over again, and you multiply the process, if I can make $10,000 on one contract and sell 10 contracts a month, I can make $100,000 a month, right? So
Yeah.
you obviously know about that industry.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of friends in the real estate investing world. So I picked up on three pivotal things that you've said so far. One was getting around the right people. You said that a while back, and how transforming that can be. And then you said a mentor, right? A lot of people don't, even though the first mentor might not be the right mentor, you're still going to pick up some things, right?
Absolutely.
And then learning a process and just repeating the process. Three big things. If you are new on your entrepreneur journey, think about those three things. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Do you have a mentor? Realize that your first mentor may not be the best mentor, but you're going to have others along your journey. And number three, find a process that you know works and just repeat it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So awesome.
Yeah, that's big.
Awesome. So let's dive into your expertise a little bit more. I was lucky enough to kind of get a peek behind the scenes at what you got and what you're building. And I was thoroughly impressed. And I know one of the things that you teach people is the art of closing bigger deals for higher profits. Can you talk about how you help investors do that?
Yeah, man. So over the past several years, if the real estate industry before COVID and then after COVID were like two completely different machines, right? After COVID shut the world down and then the government just started printing money, right? More money. There was just tons of liquidity in the marketplace. So for like a two-year window, some of these big institutions and hedge funds swarmed into the single family real estate space because Wall Street had now identified single family real estate as an asset class. So we built a system and a process inside of that model where we were just day trading houses, right? Selling these houses, these big institutions, big hedge funds, which we rode the wave as long as we could. And then when the market shifted and the money dried up, I think of it like a suction cup pulling the liquidity out of the market. But when the money dried up, the funds slowed down a lot, right? And the cash buyers got scared. And we're still in like I call it a holding pattern, but we're still in a recessionary period where there's a lot of uncertainty with what's happening, right? We're still buying, right? But a lot of people have kind of just took it to the sidelines because they don't want to lose their shirt. But fast forward the tape, when the market shifted and I realized that a lot of these big buyers for single family houses started to kind of get away, got more trigger shy, we started moving into bigger deals, right? And when I said bigger deals, like big land development opportunities. Because if you look at the data points across the board and the amount of demand and people that are migrating down to the Southeast, we're severely under, like if you look at the market trends for new builds and the demand for housing, we're millions and millions of houses below the limit where we need to be, right? So demand is still very high. And especially with all these relocation people coming from up north and coming from California, running away from crazy politics or whatever they're running from, they're coming down to the South, right? Florida, South Carolina, Texas are probably the top three relocation destinations. So by seeing these data points, right, and then getting in alignment with some of these builders, we created a process inside of our ecosystem where we take the same concepts on how we go out and find single family real estate deals, but we just shifted our focus a little bit to go after raw land, right? Anything 20 acres and up. The bigger, the better, right? 100, 200 acres. If it's close enough to existing development or it has the ability to tap into existing utilities, it can be a very, very fruitful venture, right? So instead of $10,000 to $20,000 assignment, add a zero, right? Like 10x that, you can make $100,000 to $1 million net profit on a single deal. So the past 8 months has been a heavy shift of focus inside of what we're doing. And as we're building out the system there, we've been sharing the roadmap, documenting the process, and then bringing people along with us so we can teach them how to do the same thing.
Wow, nice. I'm sure you're not that far down the road. I'm up in the upstate. So I'm sure just like around here, it seems like you can't go 2 or 3 miles without seeing a new development being built up.
Upstate is blowing up right
Yeah.
now, man, like
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Even the areas that 5 years ago were like in the sticks, you know, like Easley, Liberty,
Yeah.
Seneca, like new development all scattered around there, man. It's incredible to see the growth that's taking place.
Yeah. So another thing that I saw, I think it might have even been on on your website, was something about leveraging AI in the real estate space. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, man. So that's a rabbit hole in its own. But AI is one of those disruptive technologies that's going to change the way that we do life and business. Like it or not. I mean, I'll be honest, it's terrifying. It's freaking scary to see where it's going to take us. But like it or not, you got to learn how to implement or you're going to get left behind, right? Like big picture, I don't think it's great for society. It will get whoever holds the keys to the machine, right? It helps, they control the narrative, the information. Yeah, I'll leave that rabbit hole for another day, right? But with the emergence of ChatGTP, right, which is just a language model built inside of an AI system, it basically takes ideas and you can ask it questions or whatever prompt you tell it, it'll write you out a very detailed narrative, like spot on, better than you can write it, right? So we're leveraging that system. A lot of our content is built inside of that, but we're also plugging that into Market Pro, right? Or the high level account that we're building out, where essentially when you have people that text or communicate, you can have a predictive system answer the questions in a fitting way that makes sense and almost interacts like a human being, right? Which eliminates the need for having like a back-end assistant responding to every query that comes through when you got a machine that could answer probably better than the human being would, right? So we're experimenting with it a little bit inside of our back-end ecosystem, and just learning, right? I think it's so new. We're in an experimental stage with it, but I realize the importance of learning how to use it and figuring out how we can implement it to make existing systems better and more efficient.
Yeah, all that is true. If you're not somehow taking advantage and leveraging AI right now, you need to be as an entrepreneur. Because if not, you're going to be left behind. It's similar. It reminds me a lot of when the internet first came around, right?
Yep.
The early adopters won, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes. It's funny. I also watched a video not that long ago that was actually from Google about a couple of years ago, and it was a customer service call. And on the customer service call, the AI went, like a human would, like, like, that's crazy. Like, how would you know the difference between AI and human at that point? Because when they're making these subtle mannerisms and inflections, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's going to replace 80 to 90% of the jobs in the next 10 years. No questions asked, right? Like your sales call, the AI will be able to communicate more efficiently than a sales agent, right? And as long as you can program it to speak efficiently where it sounds not robotic, but like a human being, it understands human beings' emotions, right? And it's cued based on the language model and its experience and all of the data points that it's gathered along the way, right? Scattered across thousands and thousands of humans, where it can literally play your mind against you probably better than a human being could, right? So sales will be gone, copywriting. I don't want to say there's always going to be a need for copywriting, but if you're not at the top of your game in the copywriting space, it's going to replace most of you, right? Yeah, I mean, it's, you name it. Robots stocking the shelves in Walmart. It's a new world, man.
Yeah. Exciting and scary.
It
Exciting
is.
and scary. Yeah, anxious to see where this goes. So last question I have for you, well, maybe not the last question, but the next question I have for you is, I know, like you kind of indicated, you had your pulse in the market. You see these big land grabs going on. So kind of almost along the same lines as the AI. Where do you see the market now, and where do you see it going,
The real estate market in general.
or the economy, whichever?
Woo,
I know
that's a
that
tough one, man.
we could go all kind of ways here.
We're in uncharted waters, right? These are unprecedented times when we view inflation. I mean, if you just look at the past several years, it's mass market manipulation across the board. Like, it's not hard to see that the market was obviously very manipulated between printing money, which, if you look at like all fiat currency eventually goes to zero, right? If you look at like macro civilizations and everything else, all fiat currency, which you can create more of it, right? Eventually it all goes to zero and it dies. So when you look at the amount of money that was printed over the past several years, right, between like PPP loans, EIDL, stimulus checks, all that money that just got flushed into the ecosystem, well, 2/3 of it is already in the hands of the 1%, right? It's already there. It's already happened because they understand how to leverage it, right? And they understand how to utilize the cash, the abundance of liquidity to buy assets, which over time the value of an asset grows. But man, I'll tell you what, it's really interesting to see where we're at. I think we're going to see a lot of blood in the streets, a lot of distressed people, because the cost of goods is up, right? But the cost that of the income they're making is not going up. And then just tightening up the rates at a quicker rate than we've ever seen in history. It didn't give a whole lot of people time to figure out where they can pivot and get their feet beneath them. So I think it's going to get messy. So much to the point where I think the government's going to start printing money again, to be honest. Like Harry Dent talks about it being like the roller coaster recession, right? Where it's like printing money, heightened rates, right? So it might be kind of like a choppy ride. And at the end of the day, it's the wealthy people that are going to secure the assets. And we are in the largest separation of wealth in human history, right? So like the middle class might get wiped out over the next decade, which just makes you wonder what happens next. And then you pair that with the discussions of a central bank digital currency. And if they completely flip the US dollar on its head, right, and replace it with a blockchain or a central bank digital currency, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that piece in. Like, where's digital currency falling into this? Like, I've heard speculation that Bitcoin may eventually be the only digital currency. Yeah, who knows?
There's no way.
And then the AI piece, right? That, like, some of the AI experts are predicting a universal wage, right?
Yeah, so that's terrifying too. Yeah. I mean, so two things with that. Yeah, I saw a post the other day that said AI is going to replace so many jobs at such a crazy rate that people will literally be begging for universal income. You'll be begging for it. And then you got these loonies in the World Economic Forum like Klaus Schwab, and hearing some of the conversations that are taking place there. Yeah, there's definitely an agenda behind it.
Yeah, that's scary. But I'm going to just go back to one of the things that you said about the 1%, right? The key now is to get wealth-minded, right? Get wealth-minded. Learn how money actually flows. If you want to end up in a better position, get wealth-minded, learn how money actually flows, and then you can kind of hedge against what's coming.
Absolutely. And to the point, to get there, getting a mentor, finding a community, someone that's already reached the results that you are seeking, so you can literally just plug into the system, right? Instead of just trying to figure stuff out yourself, there is a better way, right? Finding someone that's in alignment with your vision and learning as much as you can from that person or from that network or community.
Yeah. Oh man, this has been an awesome talk, Ben. So thank you very much. How do people, like, speaking of getting wealth minded and start getting some assets, or how do people find out more about how you can help them?
Yeah, man. So Ben Lovro on all channels. I believe I'm the only Ben Lovro in the world, right? But you Google us, my website's at the top. And through my personal website, benlovro.com. It'll take you any direction you could want to go, but whether it be real estate or personal development, I've got a couple free ebooks you can download. Yeah, or find me on social media.
Nice. Well, I know some of your links, so I'll put some of those links below in the show notes, or if you're watching this on video, or wherever you see this, there will be links to go connect with Ben, whatever way you want to, whether it's through social, whether it's checking out his website, those links will be there. Ben, I know you have some parting words of wisdom for our entrepreneurs. What are those?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say trust the process and never give up, because there's going to be seasons where you fall on your face. There's going to be seasons where you might be hitting that red line, right? And you're stressing out to figure out where you go next. But I'm a man of faith, right? God comes through every freaking time. I'm just going to say that.
Yep.
Right. So have faith, trust the process, and keep on going, because the opposition always gets the heaviest right before breakthrough. Every time, every single time. So if the devil's knocking on your door, if you're hitting that opposition, keep on going, because you're literally on the brink of breakthrough.
Yeah. In my mind, I was thinking the devil's trying to break through when you're close to a breakthrough.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, man.
Every
So
time,
powerful.
dude.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. So thank you again, Ben. And until next time, keep moving forward.
Boom.